Today our topic is the banking system in Switzerland. If you would just remind us for 1 second who we are.
Yes, so good morning to all the members of the Swiss Banking Association. We are a NEOMA consulting group, and as stated yesterday and requested, we will go in depth on the analysis of the white money strategy from an ethical framework. So we can start at what point do the beliefs and values of one country should be given up in the name of a greater end? At the end, Swiss banking secrecy law states that all the values, private affairs, and the business relationship between the banker and the client have to remain secret. It is important to mention that this law can be classified or seen as the maximum expression of a value that is deeply rooted on the Swiss culture, and that is trust. On the other hand, Swiss society is characterized for highly valuing individual freedom. So we can say that trust and individual freedom set the ground floor for developing this law. However, on the last decades, several disputes with other countries have been raised up, and this was caused by the same rationale of this law. However, the origin of the law itself was stated on a totally ethical background. At the end, the aim of the law itself was to protect politically exposed persons from an international threatening backdrop. The most important example of this should be the protection of the Jewish assets during the Nazi legislation. However, the misuse of this law started when the financial institutions providing or starting developing whitening strategies for clients that should not have received the benefits of this law. On one hand, they offer protection for tax evaders, and by offering this, they hiding their assets from the home fiscal authorities. The ethical impact of this is highly significant, as tax income for a government means basically the only source of income in order to increase the people's welfare. On the other hand, they offer protection from criminal organizations, enabling them to perform their illegal activities. The ethical impact on this should be seen as they enable criminal organizations not only to self-finance, but also to grow and to diversify. An example of this could be the 9/11 issue. For example, it was found out that the founders of Al-Qaeda and the family of Osama bin Laden held their assets on Swiss bank accounts. And at the end, this could have been prevented up to a certain extent. Another example can be India, as 40% of India's GDP is black money that is held on Swiss bank accounts as well. And it is important to state that these funds are sufficient to cover the external debt of the country. So as we can see, the ethical impact of the unfortunate misuse of the law could have been on one hand prevented, and on the other hand, it has been negative or raised negative impacts beyond the Swiss borders. So basically, up to now, we can draw an ethical path that started in 1934 with the establishment of the banking secrecy law. As we have said before, it was set up on a totally ethical ground floor. The example that I have stated were the Jewish, and then the protection they received and shelter from the arbitrary decisions under the Nazi legislation. Afterwards, it started the misuse for offering protection for tax evaders on one hand and for criminal organizations on the other hand. However, this misuse of the law reached a breaking point that my colleague will explain.
Okay, so at this point, the misuse of the bank secrecy law. as well as the unethical aspect of it, got unbearable, and other countries have to intervene. And that's why in 2008 it got public that the US authorities were investigating one of the greatest Swiss banks of all times. It is UBS. And the investigation was about supporting tax evasion. At the end, they actually accepted that they were helping their clients whitening their money. They were providing them with strategies to do that. And we all know that's not acceptable. And we all know that that undermines everyone's welfare. So this case set a precedent in history, not only because for the first time a Swiss bank was held responsible for supporting tax evasion, but also because the problems about tax evasion and tax fraud went public. It also revealed the mindset hole within the Swiss banking system and its clear lack of boundaries. So at this point, I want to point something out, is that the bank secrecy law is not the problem itself, it's the misuse of it. And that's the problem we are addressing, and that's the problem we want to overcome. So it seems the solution to be the white money strategy. It was sent for consultation last year to all Swiss political and economic actors, and it's supposed to be implemented in 2016. Nevertheless, the aim of the strategy, for you to know that, is combating abuses in the areas of money laundering and taxation. And nevertheless, we think that there is never going to be a solution enough if there is not a shift in the mindset, in the way of thinking. It really needs to change. And it takes time, and it takes a lot of commitment. Before I go further, I would like to make a statement that I think makes it more clear. It is the role of the financial markets in the creation of ethical boundaries is crucial. And as it is for any other industry, the role of the financial sector goes beyond the duty of making profit and ensuring the ongoing of a bank. There is another aspect that is crucial, and we need to take it into account, and it is ethics. And it is the fact that there is a big responsibility lying on your hands as bankers, and it is setting boundaries and setting the framework in which these activities can be done with integrity and without undermining anyone's welfare. And we consider that in order for the white money strategy to succeed, we all need to commit, and we all need to agree on two facts. The first one is that keeping people and keeping banks accountable is crucial. And the second one is that at this point there is a clear distinction between right and wrong. And the Swiss bankers, you Swiss bankers, are under the public eye. So at this point we really need to stick to the law. And I know there are a lot of concerns about the future, and I know the white money strategy can look like a threat. Nevertheless, we really consider it can work. But also we consider that for that to work, we need a third actor to be part of this. For us, the third actor could be the OECD, which is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Why? Because the white money strategy will give the obligation to the financial intermediaries or the banks to make an assessment about the tax situation of their clients. And that assessment needs to be done with integrity and without overlooking information that later on can be very compromising. So we need a third actor, someone who can control that the process is done the way it is supposed to. Before I finish, I would like to make one last statement, and it is like the management of one's wealth is just not economically rational, but an index of one's ethical responsibility. So we really need to commit here. And we really need to understand that wealth is the outcome of business plus justice and ethics. And for you to think about the future and for you to think about sustainability or plans in the long run, there is no way it can happen without understanding that those three come together.
So basically, going back to the question that was stated at the beginning of the presentation, even though it can be seen as a threat, the values that are deeply rooted on the Swiss culture are not going to be lifted, but rather restructured, or better saying redirected, to the people that really needs them. So even though Swiss may think that they are giving up on these values, what they really need to do, and the only possibility that they have, is implementing this white money strategy that at the end, and this has to be very clear, the beliefs and values of one country, answering the question, and ends up when they start threatening other countries' welfare. Thanks for your attention.